The silence she carried. Sun was setting over Los Angeles, casting long shadows across the hills. In the quiet corner of a movie set, Ana de Armas sat alone on a wooden bench. Around her, people moved with purpose, lighting crew adjusting. Riggs' assistants calling out schedules, but her mind was far away. Locked in a place of silence, she didn't know how to escape. She looked down at her phone. No new messages, no missed calls. It had been like that for days, she told herself. She didn't need anyone. She had made it this far on her own. She had crossed oceans, survived auditions that shattered her confidence, and worked twice as hard to be seen, to be respected. But lately, something inside her felt like it was slipping. Keanu Reeves was 20 feet away, discussing a stunt with the coordinator. He was laughing, calm, kind, like he always was. He had a way of listening that made people feel like they mattered. Everyone on set respected him, not because he was famous, but because he treated the janitor the same way he treated the director, Anna. Watched him for a moment longer before turning away. She didn't want to be seen like this. She didn't want pity. What she wanted was much harder to ask for, someone who would notice without being told. Someone who would sit beside her and understand the words she couldn't say. The director's voice called everyone back to set. Anna stood up, putting her mask back on, the one made of smiles and polite nods. She walked to her mark, hit every line, and walked back to her trailer as if everything was fine. But Keanu had noticed. He had seen the way her shoulders slumped just a little between scenes. The way she held her breath for too long, then exhaled as if forcing herself to stay composed. He didn't ask her anything that day. He didn't want to corner her. Instead, he waited. The next morning, Anna came to set early. It was still quiet. She found a cup of coffee waiting on the bench where she usually sat. Taped to it was a small note that said, "You're not alone." No name, no explanation, but she knew. She looked around. Keanu wasn't there yet, but something about that small gesture loosened a knot in her chest. She sat down and held the cup close, letting the warmth reach her fingers. Hours passed. Scenes were shot. Laughter echoed through the set. Anna smiled when she had to, but her thoughts kept going back to the note. She wanted to say something to Keanu, but she didn't know where to begin. It wasn't until lunch that she saw him again. He was sitting alone, quietly eating as if he wasn't the star of the show. Anna hesitated, then walked over and sat across from him. "Thank you for the coffee," she said, her voice barely above a whisper. Keanu looked up, smiled gently, and nodded. "You looked like you needed it."
Out.
There was no pressure in his voice, no expectation. Just calm, understanding. Anna stared at her plate. "Some days feel heavier than others." He nodded again. "I know that feeling." Silence fell between them, but it wasn't awkward. It was peaceful, like sitting beside a river and listening to it flow. "How do you do it?" she asked. "How do you stay balanced?" Keanu leaned back, his eyes thoughtful. "I stopped pretending to be okay all the time. When I need help, I ask. And when I see someone hurting, I try to be there." Anna looked at him, her eyes moist but steady. "I've never been good at asking." "That's okay," he said. "I have to ask. Just know I'm here." Those words stayed with her. The next few days on set were easier, not because her problems had disappeared, but because the silence inside her had been heard. And sometimes that's all it takes, someone seeing through the brave face and offering quiet kindness, but the peace wouldn't last. One morning, Anna received a message from Spain. Her mother had fallen ill. The doctors weren't sure what was wrong yet. She felt her stomach twist as she read the words. The production. And yet every part of her wanted to be there. She sat alone again, this time shaking. Tears welled up, but she refused to let them fall. Keanu saw her from a distance and walked over. "You okay?" he asked gently. Anna hesitated, then handed him her phone, read the message and looked up, his expression calm but serious. "Go." To her, he said, "but the shoot she started doesn't matter." He cut in, softly but firmly. "Family comes first." She looked at him, her voice cracking. "What if they replace me?" "Then they don't deserve you," he said. He stood up and walked straight to the director's tent. Moments later, the shoot was paused. The director came out and told Anna to take as much time as she needed. No questions, no penalties. Anna stared, stunned. How had he done that? She walked over to Keanu, speechless. He smiled again, the same quiet smile. Some things are more important than schedules. Anna flew to Madrid that night. Her mother was in the hospital, but stable. The days were long, the nights longer, filled with uncertainty and exhaustion. But every morning, a new message from Keanu waited for her, just checking in. Hope today feels lighter. Take care of your heart. No pressure, no advice, just presence. She had never expected this kind of friendship, not from a co-star, not from someone as famous and busy as Keanu Reeves. But there he was, showing up in quiet, steady ways. When her mother began to recover, Anna sat beside her hospital bed and told her everything. How she had kept her pain silent. How one man had noticed without being asked. And how kindness had changed the course of her days. Her mother squeezed her hand and smiled faintly. The kindest souls always find each other. Anna returned to Los Angeles 2 weeks later. The crew welcomed her warmly. The director hugged her. But when she saw Keanu, something in her heart stirred. This wasn't just about friendship anymore. Something deeper was unfolding. But even that, she didn't know how to say, and once again, Keanu already knew. The questions she never escaped. The first morning Anna returned to set, everything felt slightly unreal. Her mother's recovery was still fragile, but she had insisted Anna go back and finish the project. She had said it with a smile, and Anna had hugged her tightly, promising to return the moment she was needed again. But as she stepped back onto the studio lot in Los Angeles, Anna couldn't shake the feeling that something inside her had changed forever. She wasn't the same woman who had left, and Keanu saw it the moment she walked in. He didn't rush to greet her. He waited, quietly, standing by the trailers, watching as she took in the familiar chaos of the set, the sound of heavy equipment being wheeled around. The distant call of someone's name on a walkie-talkie, the click of camera shutters capturing. Behind-the-scenes moments, when their eyes met, she offered him a small smile. He responded with a nod and a calm warmth in his gaze that made her chest feel lighter as she walked toward him. There were 100 things she wanted to say. Think he wasn't enough. She wanted to tell him what it meant, those daily messages, his quiet stand for her. It's the way he made her feel like she wasn't just another actor, but a person worth noticing. But all she said was, "What, you held everything." Together while I was gone, he shrugged slightly. I just made sure they remembered what really mattered. They stood together in silence, the kind that had become familiar between them, peaceful, grounding, but deep inside Anna, questions began to grow. Questions she didn't know how to speak out loud. Why did he care so much? Why did it matter too? Him, whether she was okay? Was this just who he was with everyone? Or was there something more behind the way he looked at her, stood up for her, quietly reached out every single day? The days passed with gentle rhythm. Scenes were shot, lines rehearsed. In between takes, Keanu and Anna found themselves talking more, not just about the movie, but about life. About small things that mattered, books they loved, old memories from childhood, places they hoped to visit. Anna shared stories of Havana, of the ocean, and how the wind there had a voice of its own. Keanu told her about his quiet mornings, his motorcycle rides when he needed to clear his mind, the sadness he had carried for years after losing people he loved. He didn't hide it. He didn't dramatize it. He spoke with simple honesty, and that honesty made Anna feels safe in a way she hadn't felt in a long time. One afternoon, after a long shoot, they sat side by side on the back steps of the soundstage, sipping lukewarm tea. Anna glanced at him and asked, "Do you ever feel like people expect you to be strong all the time?" He looked out into the sky for a long moment before answering. "Yes," he said, "but I stopped trying to meet that expectation. I let them think what they want. What matters is who I am when no one's looking." Anna looked down at her cup. "Sometimes I feel like I have to keep performing, even when the cameras aren't rolling." Keanu turned toward her gently. "That sounds exhausting." "It is," she whispered. He didn't offer advice. He didn't try to fix it. Instead, he placed his cup down and said, "Let's do something different tomorrow." "Like what?" "Take a break, just for one day? Get away from this place?" Anna raised an eyebrow. "You're the lead actor. Can you just disappear from set?" "Only if you come with me." The next morning, before sunrise, Keanu picked her up in an old car that smelled faintly of leather and rain. They drove without a map, windows down, music low. Anna laughed for the first time in weeks. Really laughed. They stopped at a small diner. Off the highway, ordered pancakes, and sat in a booth with chipped paint and silver napkin holders. No one recognized them. Or if they did, no one cared. They were just two people having breakfast. Afterward, they drove to a quiet beach. Anna walked along the shore, shoes in hand, letting the cold water touch her toes. Keanu followed, silent but close. When they sat down in the sand, she turned to him and asked, "Why do you do this?" He looked at her, his eyes gentle. "Because someone once did it for me," he said, "when I was younger, lost, unsure of who I was. Someone showed up for me without being asked. They didn't give me answers. They just made space for me to feel, and that changed everything." Anna stared at the ocean. She thought about how lonely she had felt before, how she had convinced herself she didn't deserve help unless she could ask for it perfectly. But Keanu never waited for her to ask. He just showed up. "It's hard to let someone see the parts of you that feel broken," she said. "You're not broken," he replied. "You're just tired of holding everything by yourself." She didn't reply. Not in words, but she leaned. Her head on his shoulder. They sat like that for a long time, the waves crashing gently nearby. When they returned to set the next day, everything looked the same. But inside Anna, something had shifted. She no longer felt like she had to carry her silence alone. But just as the days began to feel lighter again, an unexpected twist came. A new producer joined the set. Sharp suit, sharp tongue. He was efficient, cold and unimpressed by anything that didn't serve the schedule. He didn't like delays. He didn't like missed cues. Most of all, he didn't like actors getting too close during work hours. Rumors started to spread that Keanu was being unprofessional, that Anna was getting special treatment. Friendship was disrupting the flow of production. Anna heard whispers behind her back. One day, she walked into her trailer to find a note. This time, it wasn't kind. "Keep it professional," or "Step aside." There was no name. She knew exactly who had sent it. She stared at the note, hands trembling. For the first time in weeks, the silence returned. But this time, it was filled with something darkered out. Should she step back? Should she keep her distance from Keanu? He had done so much for her, and now it seemed he was being punished for it. As she sat on the small sofa in her trailer, staring blankly at the wall, there was a knock on the door. It opened slowly. Keanu stepped in, holding 2 cups of coffee. He took one look at her face and knew something was wrong. He handed her the coffee without saying a word, and sat down beside her. Anna handed him the note. He read it. His jaw tightened. But he didn't say anything for a while. Then he looked at her. "You want to step back?" he asked, voice calm. "I don't know," she admitted. "I don't want to be the reason you get in trouble." "You're not," he said. "They're just afraid of what they don't understand." "What don't they understand?" she asked softly. "Kindness," he said. "They don't understand that it's possible to care without expecting anything in return." Anna stared at him, her heart pounding. "Do you?" she asked. "Expect something in return?" Keanu looked at her for a long moment. "No," he said. "But if I'm being honest, I hope." Anna's breath caught. "Hope for what?" His voice was quiet. "That one day when you're ready, I'll ask for something more." With that, he stood and left the trailer, leaving her with her thoughts, her silence, the growing ache of something she hadn't dared to name yet. The storm she didn't see coming, Anna tried to go back to normal. The next few days on set, she kept her distance from Keanu. She smiled when he passed by, but didn't stop to talk. She stayed close to the makeup trailer, followed the schedule. Exactly, and avoided the places where they used to sit together. No more long talks on the back steps. No more shared coffee before sunrise. She told herself it was safer this way. The rumors hadn't stopped. The new producer was watching them, both closely, and Anna didn't want to be the reason Keanu's reputation was questioned. Not after everything he had done for her. But Keanu wasn't the kind of man who played games. He noticed the change, the space she had placed between them. He didn't push. He respected it. Still, she could feel his absence more than his presence now. What surprised her most was how much that hurt. One evening, as the sun dipped behind the hills, Anna sat alone on the edge of the set watching the crew pack up. Everyone else was heading to the wrap party planned for that night. But she didn't feel like celebrating. The final weeks of filming had felt heavier than the start. Not because of work, but because of the weight inside her chest. She was proud of the performance she had given. But emotionally, she was drained. It wasn't the long hours or the tough scenes, it was the quiet ache of missing something she had. It's only just begun to understand. Just then, she heard footsteps behind her. She didn't turn. "You're not going to the party?" Keanu asked gently. "I don't think I belong there," she replied. "Neither do I," he said. Sitting beside her, she finally looked at him. "I thought giving you space was the right thing," she said, "but I think I broke something instead." Keanu didn't respond immediately, just looked at the horizon. Sometimes, he said, we push away the people we need most, thinking it will protect them. But the truth is, it only leaves us both lonely. Anna's eyes filled with tears. Looked away quickly. "I was scared," she whispered. "You were kind to me when I didn't even know how to ask. And I started to feel something I couldn't explain." Keanu turned to her, his voice soft. "You don't have to explain anything. I understood the moment you stepped back. I knew you were protecting me." She nodded slowly. "But who protects you?" she asked. His smile was faint. "I've learned how to take care of my heart. But sometimes I wish someone would offer to do the same without waiting for permission." Anna took a deep breath. Her fingers trembled in her lap. "I don't know how to say what I feel," she admitted. "Then don't say it yet," he said gently. "Just promise me one thing." "What?" "Don't disappear," he said. "Not from yourself, not from me." She looked into his eyes, and for the first time in weeks, the silence between them wasn't filled with fear. It was filled with hope. But their moment was interrupted. The producer's voice echoed across the lot, sharp and impatient. "Reeves, de armas gone? I have a word." They stood and followed him to the edge of the set. The producer's expression was tight, arms folded. "We've received some concerns from the studio," he began. "I think the two of you are distracting the crew. We're under budget pressure. There's talk of replacing the last scenes with stand-ins if this continues." Anna's jaw clenched. Keanu remained calm. "We've hit every deadline," Keanu said simply. "And every scene has been shot with care." "That's not the point," the producer snapped. "The perception matters. This is Hollywood." Yeah. "There's even a rumor of unprofessional behavior." The studio reacts. Anna stepped forward, her voice firm but steady. "Are you saying we've done something wrong?" The producer didn't answer directly. Instead, he glanced between them. "Just keep it clean. Keep it distant." He walked away, leaving the warning hanging in the air. Keanu turned to Anna. "We didn't do anything wrong." "I know," she said, but she could still feel the shame creeping in the old voice inside her that told her to stay quiet. Stay small, don't make waves. That night, she didn't sleep. She lay in her apartment, staring at the ceiling, thinking about how many times she had stayed silent in her life. When people talked over her, when directors dismissed her ideas, when she felt lonely in rooms filled with people, and now she was being asked to stay silent again. For what? For being seen, for being cared for. It didn't make sense. The next morning, she made a decision. She walked onto set with her head held higher than before. During a short break, she asked the assistant director for 5 minutes in front of the cast and crew. It was unusual, but she insisted. They gathered near the main camera rig, curious. Keanu stood in the back, arms crossed, watching her. Anna stepped forward. Tia stepped forward. Her voice was calm, but clear. "I just want to say thank you," she said, "for the work, the respect, and the space you've given me. This has been one of the most meaningful projects of my life." She paused, eyes scanning the crowd. "There's been talk about distractions. about what's professional and what isn't, and I just want to say, kindness is not a distraction. Compassion is not a mistake. The crowd was quiet. Everyone was listening. This set has been hard at times, emotionally, mentally. But one person here reminded me that you can be strong and gentle at the same time, that you can care and still be respected. She turned to Keanu. Thank you for being that person. His eyes met hers, full of quiet emotion. No one spoke for a moment. Then the crew clapped soft at first, then louder, sincere. Even the assistant director nodded in support. Anna stepped down, her heart racing but her spirit steady. After the shoot, wrapped that day, Keanu found her outside. Sitting on the steps again, he sat beside her. That was brave, he said. No, she replied. That was honest. He looked at her for a long moment. You know, he said softly, I think you just asked for help, without even realizing it.
She smiled.
And this time, she didn't look away. The truth behind closed doors had been 3 days since Anna spoke in front of the crew. 3 days since she finally stopped hiding behind silence. The mood on set had shifted. People smiled more. The tension had eased. Even the producer had. Backed off, at least for now. And Anna felt lighter. But something inside her still felt unfinished. She had taken a step. A brave one. But part of her wondered if she had only scratched the surface of something deeper. Something that went beyond kindness, beyond fear. Keanu had been quiet since her speech. Not distant, just thoughtful. They still talked, still walked together. Between takes, still sat beside each other in peaceful silence. There was a weight in his eyes now. Like he was waiting for something but didn't want to ask, Anna noticed. She just didn't know what to do with it until one afternoon when everything changed. They had just wrapped a powerful emotional scene together, the kind that left you hollow inside, as if the lines had torn through something real. As soon as the director called cut, Anna walked off set. Needing air, she found herself behind the soundstage, breathing hard, hands on her knees. Keanu followed, but didn't speak. He just waited. Finally, she looked up. Why do you do it? She asked. Why do you care so much about people who barely know how to accept it? He looked at her, his voice soft. Because I know what it feels like to be invisible, to walk through pain without anyone noticing, and I promised myself, if I ever got through that, I'd never let someone else feel alone in it. Anna's throat tightened. She stepped closer to him. But it's not just kindness, is it? Not with me. Looked at her carefully. No, he said quietly. It's not. Anna's breath caught. The truth had been there between them for weeks, wrapped in glances and unspoken moments, and now was real. But before either of them could speak again, her phone rang. She glanced at the screen. Her manager, she answered. Stepping away? Anna, her manager said quickly, you need to come in. Now, what's wrong? There's an article, spreading like wildfire. Someone's leaked personal photos of you and Keanu off set on the beach. They're twisting the story, calling it a scandal. The studio's panicking. Anna's chest tightened. How? How did they get those? Paparazzi drones. Maybe someone on set? I don't know. It's bad. You need to come in before they make a decision without you. Anna ended the call and turned back to Keanu, her hands shaking. They're saying things. About us, about those photos from the beach. Keanu's single quote's expression didn't change. He just stepped closer. Let them talk, he said. But what? If it costs you everything? She asked, voice breaking. Your name, your career, your respect, Anna. He said gently, what matters to me right now is you, not headlines. But she couldn't breathe. She had fought so hard to build her reputation, to be seen as more than just a beautiful face or a rising star. And now the media was turning her story into something shallow, scandalous. Keanu placed his hand on her shoulder. Then let's face it together. She nodded slowly, but her heart was spinning. Later that evening, Shu sat in a conference room at her agency, her manager pacing in front of her. They want a statement, he said. They want you to say the photos were innocent.
Did you?
And Keanu are just friends, nothing more. Ina's stomach turned. What if I don't want to lie? Then you risk losing your contract. The next 3 roles. Your brand deals. You know how this works, Anna. This industry doesn't reward women who speak with their hearts. Anna stared at the table. All her life, she had followed the rules, smiled when told, stayed silent when expected. And every time, it left her feeling smaller. Now she had something real, someone real, and they were asking her to erase it. That night, she didn't go home. She went to Keanu's place. He opened the door, saw her face, and stepped aside. She sat. On his worn-out couch, her eyes red, her hands clenched. "They want me to deny everything," she said. "They want me to act like nothing between us matters." He sat beside her, calm as always. "What do you want?" Anna didn't answer right away. She looked at him the way he saw her, heard her, without needing anything in return. And for the first time in her life, she said exactly what was in her heart. "I want the truth," she whispered. "I want to stop pretending. I want to be brave, but I don't know how." Keanu nodded slowly. "Then we'll start with something small," he said. "We'll tell the truth to each other. Just us." He reached for her hand. "I care about you, Anna. Not just because you're kind or strong or beautiful. I care about the way you never give up. The way you carry your silence and still show up for the world. The way you let people see your light, even when you're hurting." Anna's eyes filled with tears. "I care about you too," she said, her voice shaking. "But I've spent so long trying to be strong. Forgot what it feels like to be held." Keanu pulled her gently into his arms. She rested her head against his chest, and for the first time in weeks, she let herself cry. He didn't try to stop her. He just held her, because he already knew. The next morning, Anna released her own statement, not written by her manager, not filtered by a studio. It was simple. Sometimes in the middle of chaos, you find someone who reminds you to breathe. "I'm not ashamed of kindness. I'm not ashamed of truth. And I won't apologize for the people who stand beside me." Within hours, the world responded. Some headlines praised her bravery, others tried to spin drama, but the people who mattered, her fans, the crew. Fellow actors stood by her, and so did Keanu. When she arrived on set the next day, the same producer, who had once warned her, now kept his distance. No more threats. No more silence. Anna had found her voice, and she wasn't giving it up again. When the world watcheth, studio didn't fire her, they didn't pull the final scenes, and they didn't replace her with stand-ins. Anna's statement, raw and unfiltered, had struck a nerve far beyond Hollywood. It wasn't just about gossip or headlines anymore. People saw themselves in her words. Fans around the world reposted her message with the hashtag kindness is not a shame. Strangers shared their own stories of being told to hide their feelings, to bury their truth, Anna had said. What many were afraid to, and in doing so, she had sparked something bigger. Keanu, true to who he had always been, didn't give a single interview. He refused to speak to tabloids. When asked by reporters outside his hotel, he simply said, "I'm proud of her." And that was all. The final week of filming began, and the energy on set was different now. People whispered less, they smiled more. The air felt lighter, even as the last scenes pushed everyone to their emotional edge. One afternoon, Anna and Keanu filmed a powerful monologue together. The scene called for intensity, for vulnerability, for truth. And when the director called action, Anna didn't act. She lived it. The silence, the fear, the ache. The courage, it all came pouring out of her in each word, each glance toward Keanu. And he, as always, matched her with quiet strength. When the scene ended, the crew stood still. The director didn't say cut right away. He just let the silence sit. Then finally he whispered, "That was it. That's the one." Everyone applauded Anna. Stepped off set, her body shaking, was the most honest performance of her life. And she had delivered it not by pretending, but by opening a wound and letting it be seen. Keanu met her just beyond the camera lights. "You were brilliant." He said, "No," she replied. "I was real." And that, they both knew, was even more powerful. The wrap party came a few nights later. Anna didn't want to go at first. She never liked big crowds or loud music. But Keanu gently nudged her. "Come for a little while," he said. "You deserve to see how much they admire you." So she went. The room was filled with laughter, music, and the hum of stories being told over drinks. Cast and crew hugged her, thanked her, told her she'd changed the tone of the entire production, and for the first time, Anna believed it. Near the end of the night, she stepped outside onto the balcony, looking out over the city lights. Keanu joined her. They stood quietly, shoulder to shoulder. "What happens now?" Anna asked softly. Keanu smiled. "Whatever you want to happen." She looked at him, the man who had listened without asking, who had stood beside her without needing anything in return, who had never tried to fix her but always made room for her to feel. "I want peace," she said, "and honesty, in people who don't need me to pretend." "You already have that," he replied. "You just have to hold on to it." She reached for his hand. He held it gently. But peace doesn't come without another test. A few days later, manager called again. "Anna, they want to cast you in something big," he said. "International production. Prestige drama. We're sending the script tomorrow." "That's great," she said, confused by his serious tone. "So what's the problem?" "They have one condition." "What is it?" "They want you to stay quiet about Keanu. They think the publicity is distracting. They want to present you as a clean slate, a single, focused, rising star. Not someone caught in a sensitive entanglement." Their words, not mine. Anna felt her throat tighten. "And if I say no, then they'll pass." Anna hung up and sat in silence for a long time. She thought about everything she'd been through. The silence she used to carry, the fear of asking for help, the weight of pretending to be okay, and how one person had slowly helped her climb out of that darkness, and now they wanted her to walk backward, to bury it all, to be small again. She called Keanu. He answered after the first ring. "I need to talk to you," she said. "Can I come over?" "I'll be here," he replied. She drove through the quiet night, the city glowing around her like a sea of stars. When she arrived, Keanu opened the door before she could even knock. They sat on the same couch. "Just like before, they offered me a huge role," she said, "but only if I let go of everything that brought me here." He watched her carefully. "And what do you want?" "I want to keep growing," she said, "but not if it means shrinking who I am." He nodded slowly. "Then you already know the answer." Anna leaned back. "I'm tired of choosing between success and self-respect." "Then stop choosing," he said. "Take both, or walk away. But on your terms, not theirs." She looked at him, really looked. "Keanu, if I say no to this, people might think I'm throwing away my chance." "Let them think what they want," he replied. "Your truth is bigger than their version of you." Tears welled up in her eyes. "How do you always know what to say?" "Because I've been where you are," he whispered. "And no one deserves to face that alone." Anna didn't speak. She just reached out, took his hand, and held it like it was the only thing that kept her steady, because maybe it was. The next morning, she sent her answer to the studio. "I'm honored by the offer, but I'm no longer willing to hide the parts of my life that make me whole." They withdrew the role within an hour, and Anna felt something surprising. Not regret, but freedom. She called her mother in Madrid, told her everything. Her mother laughed softly on the phone and said, "They can't silence a voice that was born to rise." Anna smiled, and for the first time in years, she believed it. She and Keanu met for lunch later that day at a small cafe on the edge of the city. They talked about nothing and everything about the sky. It's the movie, the future, and then, without warning, Keanu reached across the table and gently took her hand. "You've come so far," he said. Anna looked at him, eyes soft. "Because you walked beside me?" He shook his head. "No, I just reminded you where the road was. You're the one who started walking." The voice that changed everything months passed. The film wrapped, the set dismantled, the cameras packed away. And just like that, the long hours, the quiet talks, the weight of shared emotions became memories stitched into time. Anna had expected the world to move on. Hollywood always did. But something different happened. The film released with a quiet bang. It didn't scream for attention, didn't lean on scandal or hype, just spoke, and people listened. The reviews didn't just praise the acting, praised the truth behind it. Critics noticed the emotional depth between Anna and Keanu, calling their connection unusually honest and rarely seen on screen. But more than the movie, it was Anna's journey off-screen that drew the world in. The interviews began again, but this time, Anna didn't sit down in a designer dress. Reading carefully rehearsed lines from a press team, she spoke plainly. She talked about fear, about exhaustion, about how easy it is to lose yourself in a world that demands you to be everything and nothing at once. She didn't name names, she didn't throw stones, but she told the truth. One interviewer asked, "What gave you the courage to finally speak?" Anna looked at the camera and smiled softly. "Someone once reminded me that strength doesn't always shout. Sometimes it just listens." The world listened back. Young actors reached out to her. Messages flooded her inbox from people in all walks of life's nurses, teachers, teenagers, mothers, people who had felt invisible, afraid to ask for help, afraid to disappoint. Anna's story gave them permission to feel, to speak, to hope. She and Ond. Keanu never made any public announcements about their relationship. They didn't need to. Their actions said enough. They were seen together at bookstores, on quiet walks, at a small hospital in East Law, where they both volunteered once a month, reading to patients or bringing flowers. They weren't hiding. They just weren't performing, and people respected that. One evening, almost a year after their first day on set together, Anna stood on a small stage in New York. She had been invited to speak at a foundation event for mental wellness in the film industry. As she looked out at the crowd, lump rose in her throat, she took a breath. A year ago, she began, "I didn't know how to ask for help. I thought that if I did, I would look weak, maybe lose my place, maybe disappoint the people who believed in me." And then someone noticed, not because I said something, but because they were paying attention. She paused. He didn't offer me answers. He offered presence. That presence changed everything. She glanced at the back of the room. Keanu stood there, hands in his pockets, eyes steady, just like always. Anna continued, "This isn't just a story about kindness. It's a story about listening, about holding space for someone else's silence until they find the strength to speak." After the speech, she walked off the stage to quiet applause, gentle, respectful, full of feeling. Keanu was waiting for her in the wings. "You did it," he said softly. She smiled. "We did it." They walked through the hallway side by side, past framed posters and awards and photographs of other performers who had once stood in that place. But none of that mattered now, because what they had built couldn't be framed or held in a glass case. It was something deeper, something that came from truth, from struggle, from the soft strength of being fully seen as they stepped out into the quiet night. Anna turned to Keanu and said, "Do you remember that note you left me? The first one? The coffee?" He smiled. "You're not alone." "Yes," she said. "I still have it." He looked at her. "Do you believe it now?" She nodded. "With all my heart." They walked down the sidewalk, hand in hand. No cameras, no headlines. Just two people who had found each other in the quiet and who chose every day to stay.